Hi, I'm Linda Mall, and welcome to Art This Week. On this week's episode, we visit the Amon Museum of American Art, and our interviewer, Aimee Cardosol, speaks with curator Maggie Adler about the exhibition Wild Spaces, Open Seasons, Hunting and Fishing in American Art. Now for Art This Week. Hi, I'm here at the Amon Museum of American Art with curator Maggie Adler to talk about the exhibition Wild Spaces, Open Seasons.
Hi.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
So how did the idea of this exhibition come together, and specifically, why did y'all choose to focus on hunting and fishing?
What's surprising, people keep asking me, is that nobody has devoted an exhibition to the subject of hunting and fishing in American art. And when you think about it, hunting and fishing images are some of the oldest images in recorded history, and even before recorded history, from cave paintings to constellations. And so 4 directors of 4 different museums got together and thought this would be a wonderful way of combining our collections as well as some of the greatest works of American art organized around the theme of hunting and fishing. It was passed on to us as curators to interpret that vision in whatever way we saw fit. So we had 4 curators, none of whom were really involved in much hunting and fishing, but who were art historians. And so we really approached the subject from best of the best paintings, almost, I keep saying, almost like a fantasy baseball team of works of art by the great American artists that expressed the theme of hunting and fishing, but really had more to say about American society in the 19th and 20th century, and about politics, the environment, and all these social issues that were part of society at the time that are more than just about the practice of hunting and fishing.
So can you talk a little bit about the process of balancing the exhibition with artists who did specialize in sporting genres and those who did not, like you're saying, the kind of the best of the best?
Yeah, I think our hope was that we attract our normal audience of American art going museum aficionados, as well as people who may never have set foot in the Amon Carter, who would be attracted to an exhibition on something that they feel passionate about. And so we were very mindful to include sportsmen's and sportswomen's favorite artists like Arthur Fitzwilliam Tate, Carl Rungius, and as a matter of fact, the outdoor writer who wrote for our book on the subject said, you can't do a hunting and fishing exhibition without Carl Rungius. So we said, okay, fine. But most of us were really interested in, well, what does it look like when the gentlemanly John Singer Sargent, known for his society portraits, engages in a painting of fishing? Or Winslow Homer, the master of American art in the 19th century, how does he address the subject? So we wanted Aikens, Homer, Wyeth, people you wouldn't normally associate with hunting and fishing pictures, to really show how prevalent it was in the visual record of a period of time.
So there are 6 themes in this exhibition. Can you briefly go over what the viewers can expect to see in each of these themes?
Sure. I think basically we gathered together the works and they started to suggest certain commonalities. And so what I think you expect when you come to the exhibition is the first section, leisurely pursuits. Hunting as a pastime, fishing as a pastime. It comes to illustrate that there is a burgeoning middle class in the 19th century with time on their hands to go and experience the outdoors. So this is the section in which you see the gentleman hunter as well as the democratic pursuit of engaging with the land in the 19th century. We then move on to the counterpart to that, which is livelihoods. And that is hunting for sustenance, commercial fishing, the notion that it's not just about sport, but about a way of life for many people and about their livelihoods. The next section is communing with nature, which really emphasizes the fact that there was a real anxiety about increasing urbanization and industrialization in America, and that the solution to that, as proposed by writers like Emerson, was go outside, experience the land, and do it as a community. So as communities are dissipating and as society is becoming more fractured, the best way to reunite is to go out and to experience what America has to offer that is unique to it, which is its natural resources. And then we move on to Perils. This is the section where I say the animals fight back. I think it was really important to us to address the dangers and the perils and the problems inherent in the subject of hunting and fishing. And so we've got bear attacks, not that bears are inherently bad, and rattlesnake dens, and these moments of vicarious thrill, where people would go to look at artworks to experience the kind of effect of being on a roller coaster, going to a horror movie, but they knew they were doing it from the safety of the galleries. Mm-hmm. And then one of my favorite sections is myth and metaphor. Many of these paintings are not really about what they seem to be about on the surface. They're about political intrigue, they're about religious sentiment. They build on classical myths, but they tweak them for an American audience. So you'll find everything from paintings of the miraculous Hall of Fishes, which is a biblical story, to Diana the Huntress, who we'll see later, I guess. And then, and trophies is the final section. It's the spoils of the hunt. And it features America's great trompe-l'oeil painters, those who were intent on fooling viewers' eyes into believing that what they were seeing was three-dimensional, even though it was two-dimensional. So these are some of the great paintings by William Michael Harnett and Alexander Pope and the masters of that discipline.
So you spoke about communing with nature. For instance, how is Thomas Cole involved in that movement?
So I think my colleague Shirley, who was one of the curators on this project, spoke very eloquently about how the tradition of fishing was passed down in her family. Mm-hmm. And so there's this family enterprise that's reflected, and a kind of nostalgia that's reflected in the communing with nature section. We're in front of Thomas Cole's Hunter's Return, which is part of our collection, and what seems a very basic landscape on the surface has a lot going on beneath the surface. So what you have is a family that has domesticated a little portion of land. There's a garden, they have chickens, they've baked a pie that the dog is about to steal off the bench, and they're returning from the hunt. And you might think, okay, this is what life was like for Thomas Cole, who was the founder of the Hudson River School of Painting, that it was very bucolic and that he's absolutely celebrating this family life and the cultivation of the wilderness. But in fact, Thomas Cole was one of the first environmentalist artists. And he did this painting. It's a kind of a nostalgic view of an area that was being taken over by the railroad, by the lumber industry, by tanneries. And he is the first person to signal that with progress, with industrialization, it comes at a cost. Mm-hmm. And the cost is this kind of way of life would pass by, and these sort of this ability to live off the land would be a thing of the past. So, and this is alluded to in the fact that there are all these fallen trees in the foreground of the painting, which signify the death of the wilderness. What's ironic about it is that the very people for whom he was creating this critique, in other words, the lumber industry, the industrialists, these are the people who are collecting his paintings. So he's kind of skirting the issue a little bit, but he's doing what he can to raise a flag while he's celebrating the kind of family togetherness and the passing of traditions that he valued and that were part of his upbringing and about part of American society.
So although this exhibition has traveled across the U.S., the Amon Carter is the only museum to have the piece by Andrew Wyeth. What do you think he was trying to convey in this piece, and what all was going on at the time it was created?
Sure. So Andrew Wyeth's painting has joined us. It's one of his masterpieces, and what's interesting is that it's one of the only works of art in the exhibition in which the hunter has become the hunted. And so you're seeing the hunter from an aerial point of view that almost suggests someone in the trees or something in the trees acting as a sniper. The reason for this is that the painting is from 1943, so it really speaks to the issues of World War II. Italy declaring war on Germany, its former ally. It was actually, in fact, used as a cover for the Saturday Evening Post to express distress about what would happen to American soldiers abroad with their involvement in World War II. So again, it's one of the paintings in the exhibition that seems to be about something on the surface, but has a much larger connection to the social issues of the day.
So let's talk about one of your favorite pieces, since you used to do archery, is that correct?
Yes,
you were an archer?
I was a competitive archer.
Yes.
So the goddess of the hunt is Diana. And the story of Diana is that she's asked to remain pure. So she's asked to live out her days in freedom in the wilderness, hunting with her companion dogs. And what that means is it's absolutely a huge no-no to see her in the nude. And the one story that we have in mythology about that is that she was taking a bath and the hunter Actaeon came upon her in the bath, and she was so incensed that she splashed the bath water on Actaeon, turning him into a stag so that his own dogs didn't recognize him, and you can imagine what happened next. So the biggest no-no is to see Diana naked. Well, Augustus St. Gaudens, the famous Gilded Age sculptor, was best friends with Stanford Wyeth, the architect of McKim and White. And he was building Madison Square Garden for New York City. And he asked his friend to create a weather vane for the top of the building. And so what does St. Gaudens do? For the first time in his career, he decides to do a nude sculpture. And it's not just any nude, it's not Venus, which you could kind of understand, it's Diana. And so he knew his myth. And I think he was being a bit subversive. So for the tallest point in Manhattan, illuminated by electric lights, you have the goddess who must not be seen in the nude. This incurred the major wrath of Anthony Comstock, who was the 19th century policeman for propriety and morality. And that made Stanford White and St. Gaudens public enemy #1 to Comstock. But it was so popular that St. Gaudens decided to make bronze reductions of the original sculpture, which is now at the Philadelphia Museum of Art. But these bronze reductions you could buy at high value goods stores like Tiffany's, and you could own Diana for your desktop or for your home. So it works on so many layers, right? You have this major public sculpture in which all of Manhattan is imperiled, and you have the ability to possess Diana in your home. So it's a kind of fascinating statement on doing forbidden things for the 19th century.
Because of the majority of these works haven't been seen together before, being so diverse in artist and in time, kind of looking back at your research and seeing the paintings together, is there anything that, are there any new ideas that you came across or connections that you hadn't made before?
I just think it's, the subject of hunting and fishing is much more rich than I originally anticipated. And the fact of its continuing motifs occurring over and over and over again throughout the more than 60 works in the exhibition, this idea of nostalgia, the idea of camaraderie. This is an exhibition in which there are great dogs in many, many of the works of art in all their guises. And I think I even convinced myself, and I think the other curators would say this as well, that it's a much more rich subject than we could have anticipated from the beginning. I think the recurring motif of nostalgia is really something that I hadn't realized until I went through the whole exhibition, until I saw it on the walls of the Amon Carter. Even paintings that look as though they are representing 19th century habits and customs, like William Michael Harnett's After the Hunt. Those are including items that are from the 15th century. So there's a looking back, there's an assessment of all the cultural, it's a fascinating thing to think about how American society can be reflected through such a small topic, but it's a small topic that has ramifications for society at large. And part of that comes through not just including 19th century works, but having moments of modernism in an exhibition where they might not be expected, from George Bellows to Marston Hartley to one of America's first Cubist painters, Max Weber. You see also the variety of American topography and the variety of wilderness from California to New England reflected in the paintings that are on the wall and the sculptures that we have on our pedestals.
I love that so much of this show too is also already the Amon Carter's collection, so it really kind of spotlights you guys.
9 works of art from the Amon Carter's collection, but then some great works from private collections, from the Metropolitan Museum of Art, from the Philadelphia Museum of Art. So we're trying to bring the best of the best to Fort Worth.
Well, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
We want to thank Maggie for speaking with us. For more information on the exhibition, go to cartermuseum.org. That's it for Art This Week. Thanks for watching.
still got your Polaroid.